Hello and good morning, grade 7. Welcome to our first ever topic for this quarter. This is entitled Tracing Our Ancestral Origin. And of course, before we formally dive into our lesson, let me present first to you our objectives. So at the end of this session, you should be able to first discover literary genres of the early Filipinos. Second, identify different literary genres during the pre-colonial period, and lastly, understand unique features of proverbs, myths, and legends. And of course, class, it's pivotal that we assess first your prior knowledge regarding the future topics that we will have in the future. So for 8 minutes, you have to answer your pretest on pages 3 to 4 on your module 1. Okay? 8 minutes starts now. All right, time's up. Kindly take a picture of your answer and send it to me on my Facebook account, Lupa Store. At this juncture, class, let's play a game. This game is entitled Fact or Bluff. I believe you are very much familiar with this game, correct? All right. Number 1. Anyway, you can use our chat box if you wish to answer, okay? If you are shy to admit yourselves, okay? Number 1, fiction, poetry, and drama are all examples of literary genres. Is it a fact or a bluff? All right, some of you answers fact, some of you bluff. Let's check. Number 1 statement, this is a fact, okay? The literary genres are the form of work that writers in Western culture have primarily used. Number 2, fictions are informational texts dealing with an actual real-life subject. Is it a fact or a bluff? All right, let's check. So this statement is a bluff. Now, what makes this statement incorrect? From the word fictions, okay. It should be non-fiction because we're dealing with the actual real-life subject. Number 3, dramas are stories composed in verse or prose, usually for theatrical performance, where conflicts and emotion are expressed through dialogue and action. Is it a fact or a bluff? Kindly type your answers on our chat box. All right. The answer is fact. Number 4. Poetry consists of verse and rhythmic writing with imagery that creates emotional responses. Is it a fact or a bluff? All right. Kindly type your answers. All right. The correct answer is fact. All right. Very good, class. Lastly, old writers are better than new writers. Is it a fact or a bluff? All right. Some of you answered fact, some of you bluff. Let's check. All right. So this statement is a bluff because we all know that each writers have uniqueness when it comes in writing a certain literary piece. And we don't have the right to judge and say that old writers are always better than new writers. Okay. Tracing our ancestral origin. First, what is literature? Anyone? All right, you can use our chat box if you wish to answer. All right, so when we say literature, class, this is an oral or any written work of art that people use in order to express their thoughts, their feelings, and their emotions. Okay. And under literature, we have this what we call literary forms. So basically, class, when we say literary forms, this is about the manner or the style of constructing a literary piece. Okay. So we have during those times, we have this 4 forms of literary. First, we have the oral literature, then followed by the folk song, folk tales, and the epic. Let's discuss first oral literature. Oral literature refers to spoken literature which is transmitted orally or delivered by word of mouth. If we're going to get back on the ancient times class, the only source of entertainment of people back then was listening to stories told by the older people, like their grandmothers or their grandfathers. Okay, so basically, class, there is still no written stories back then. Only literature that is delivered by mouth or simply listening to storytellings. Okay. Next, after oral literature, folk songs evolved. So, what is a folk song? It's a form of folk lyric which expresses the people's hopes, aspirations, and lifestyles as well as love, their loves. Okay, often repetitive and sonorous, didactic, and simple. So these are one of the oldest form of literature class, this folk song that emerged during the Spanish period. So these songs actually mirrored the life of our early ancestors back then and what culture do they have. So example of this is Leron Leron Sinta. Okay, are you familiar with that? All right. Another would be the folk tales. Folk tales, stories in the oral tradition or tales that people tell each other out loud. They are closely related to many storytelling traditions, including fables, myths, and fairy tales. Okay. So when we say folk tale class, we also called it as kwentong bayan in Tagalog. Okay. This story often talks about life, adventure, horror, love, or anything where people can derive lessons about life. Okay, you get that? Example of these are Sleeping Beauty, The Ugly Ducklings, Snow White, and such. Under folktales class, we have myths, legends, and proverbs. Let's differentiate the three. First, we have myths. Myths explains how the world was created, how certain animals possess certain characteristics, or why some places have waterfalls, volcanoes, mountains, flora, or fauna. So basically, it is about the creation of something. Example of these are how the world was made by Visayan Maxim, the creation by Igorot, and how the moon and the stars came to be from Bukidnon. Okay. Next, we also have legend. It explains the origin of things or where does something came from. Okay. Example of this is the story about the monkey and the turtle, why the fish has scales, and the story of Piña. Okay. Are you familiar with those? All right. Next, we also have proverbs. Filipino proverbs or Philippine proverbs are traditional sayings or maxims used by Filipino based on local culture, wisdom, and philosophies. Example of proverbs class is it's difficult to wake up someone who is pretending to be asleep. Okay, that is an example of proverb. So proverbs, it corresponds to the Tagalog words salawikain, kasabihan, and sawikain. And it can be quoted to express a sentiment, a statement, or an opinion. I have here examples of proverbs. A broom is sturdy because its strands are tightly bound. Now, what do you think this proverb means? Okay. So basically, class, this proverb only means that there is always a strength in unity. All right. Next, new king, new character. It means new leadership always bring new ways. All right. Next proverb. Nothing destroys iron but its own corrosion. So this only means, class, that of course we all know that iron is known for its strength, right? But it can destroy itself when it is exposed to certain conditions. Okay? So likewise, even a strong person can be undone by his or her own actions or habits, okay? And a lot of times we are being destroyed by our own bad habits or the way we think about something, okay? Next, There is no need to cry over spilled milk. What does this mean? So this proverb means, class, that there's no need for you to cry over something that has already happened and it cannot be changed, okay? You no longer need to cry over things that maybe hurted you in the past because it's already in the past, okay? Move forward, okay? Lastly, what comes from bubbles will disappear in bubbles. What does this mean? All right, so basically, class, it only means easy come, easy go. All right. We also have here epics. These are narratives of sustained length based on oral tradition, revolving around supernatural events or heroic deeds. So, to make it simple, class, epics, this is a story about the heroic deeds of someone.